Go. Hello everyone,
Hello.
and welcome along to our Mindful Leadership podcast with my dear friend Natasha Rocha. Hello.
Hello, welcome everybody. So good to see you here. Thanks for supporting us. And as always, if you want to jump and be on, this podcast, we'd love to hear your story. And if you know of any conscious businesses that are changing the world, we'd also love to speak to them as well. So, John, today we're covering the topic of.
Energy leaks. Yay,
Mhm.
what are they? What's an energy leak? What does that really mean? What does it mean in our lives, in our business, in our finances? What does it mean even inside of us? And yeah, I felt drawn to cover this topic because it's something that's been close to my heart as I've transitioned from my 26 years in software engineering and artificial intelligence in a big corporate company for the last 8 years. Um, and it taught me, that experience taught me a lot, and also just a continued practice of like the benefits of being able to plug those energy leaks and really get, really focus on having all the things you really want in your life and not continually distracted by all the things that you just couldn't really be bothered facing or dealing with, or perhaps you're not even realizing consciously what effects they're having on you. And I have lots of stories to share. Um, but would you like to share anything about your experiences or what, first of all, like what they mean to you, Natasha?
So energy leaks. So I work quite a lot with energy leaks, but also energy blocks
Mm,
from that perspective, and they can be quite different. We're constantly running into kind of like monitoring our energy and how we work through it, and it's very much connected to our productivity, our outlook, and our interactions with people as well. And I also tend to look at these things from a very much a physical, mental, and emotional capacity as well. And so, from a physical experience, anything an energy leak could look like being, feeling lethargic, not having energy, procrastination might be one of those things. Energy blocks on a different perspective could look like when things aren't going well, whether it be in a project, whether it be at home, whether it might be in your relationship. There is sometimes where there's kind of like stagnancy, or no matter what you try, it doesn't seem to work. And not only that, there's many multi-dimensional aspects of why something could be happening in the way that it is. Sometimes it's just a door that we're not supposed to go in and it's going to change direction. But sometimes there is a block or a resistance in the flow of, the motion of what we're wanting to achieve. And yeah, so looking at it from different perspectives to see whether it's internal, kind of like self-sabotage, judgment, or if it's coming in from something like external that is perhaps blocking, uh, you know, this situation or the flow of something that we're wanting to attain. I
fabulous.
know that's
Yeah,
very general, but it's there's and
it's
it's case by case. But on a high level, that's
yeah.
what the way I've experienced them as well.
That's fantastic. And it's
Absolutely.
it's it's so helpful to think about these subjects, the leaks and the blocks, very broadly, because when you see the patterns about how you can identify them, they apply to almost everything that you do.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes tempting to silo these things, say my money is separate from my health, and my health is
Mhm.
separate from my business, and my business is separate from, my work-life balance. And it's like, no, everything is like absolutely related. Um, I'd like to share a couple of starting with finances. I'd like to share a couple of funny, maybe not so funny stories about energy leaks. So um, there's this great business model, right? Subscription business models. How cool is that? Like you convince your customer to sign up for something on a regular basis, and your customer will either consciously or subconsciously or completely unconsciously keep paying you money. Um, and I have had this ongoing discussion with my family members about the use of Audible. Amazon's Audible, fantastic service. My son had been using it for meditations for a while, and there was this charge coming out of our account, and every time we would, this goes back years, right? So I'm not even sure. I don't actually want to know the answer to how many years it goes back. I know that it's going to be up to 8 years. um, and so we were constantly reviewing this, and we were looking at these payments, and my son was like, he's for a while he was using it, and so we'd like ask that question, right? Is anyone, using Audible? Yes, I use it for this. Oh, great. And so you assume that must be that charge, and the charge was £12, 12 pence every month. So also, for some people, that's a lot of money. When I was on a corporate salary, I had a lot. I felt like my focus was everywhere else and not on that £12 and 12 pence every month. Anyway, my son stopped using Audible, and we were still asking the questions of like why. My wife was like, "Why is this money still coming out?" So I got on a chat um, with the Audible guys on one of these live chats. Spent about half an hour, and we went through all of our family's accounts, and no one had it. No one was using the service. And then mysteriously, uh, it looked like of course, it had to be me. I had signed up for Audible through the .com website, which I find really mysterious, but it's possible that I did it with my work and never cancelled it and had been paying that for years. And it doesn't take, it's like $14.95 or something. It
Hmm.
doesn't take a mathematician to work out that it's actually quite a lot of money. Um, and so that helped me reflect on, a leak. Like if someone had said to me, if my boss had said to me, "Hey, John, like just to let you know, you've done nothing different today, right? But I'm just going to give you more money." Right? It's just like, I know it's crazy, but I'm just going to give you this more money, and that's it. Oh, by the way, there's going to be one less transaction in your bank account each month because we'll just add it onto your salary. So there's like one less thing to look at and distract you about what is this thing? Where is this thing? Um, and I also, so that was like it was just a big lesson, and it was like always track down these little leaks, and sometimes it's fun, right? I
Yeah.
always feel it's like I can't be bothered. I've got like more important things to do. Is it really that is it that much money? And then in my head, I always think, but over the year, and think about all those times, importantly, that it distracts me. Every month or two, we're asking each other, and there's a conversation, and
Hmm.
you're checking an app, and then you forget about it, and then you go back into it, and that's really like a red flag for a leak. It's because it's something that you're constantly drawn back to, and it's distracting you from whatever it is you're trying to do in that with your life and in that moment. And it's also just in this case, like just very gently bleeding this money away each month.
Yeah.
Um, and I've got a lot better. So when I left my corporate job, I also did like a purge. So I did a scan through every single thing that I could think of. And I did find some like useful tips. Like if you're an Android user like me, going on the Google Play Store was really good because a lot of the subscriptions come through there. And so you can do really practical things like just pause something you're not sure about. So for example, I on and off, I'll pause the YouTube premium service because I love walking my dog or running or whatever, and listening to YouTube videos. It's quite hard to do without their premium service. But just to check that I really want it, I'll pause it for three
Hmm.
months. And you'd be amazed, like, because I think it's part of the human psyche. You believe that, but if I cut that energy leak off, it'll somehow be really hard to reform. Absolutely not. Companies will fall over themselves to make it easy for
Mm.
you to either pause or cancel and bring you back. And then even when you
Absolutely.
cancel, they'll often bring you back as well. And now I tend to, whenever I sign up for something, in fact, I did it yesterday. I did it for an AI audio cleaner for a music collaboration, and I instantly canceled it. So because I knew it'd give me for free, if I can say it, for free for 3 days, and I canceled
Mm.
it, and I was like, fantastic. And I know that it's easy to sign up if I ever really really want to use it. Um, so yeah, I think that's like the financial side is quite shocking when you add it all up. I'm not even sure it would have been into the at least 100 in a month that I'd
Hmm.
be saving, and that's 1,200 in a year. And you're thinking, well, that's over the years of me paying these things, everything
Hmm.
adds up. Um,
Absolutely.
and energy leaks aren't just money, but I think it's a great place to start.
Yeah. And it's quite interesting because when we sign up to these things, there is an energetic link to it, so which continues to provide that energy for that. And I noticed that as well, where I had joined a whole bunch of Facebook groups that I ended up being attached to that wasn't really even in alignment with me or what I want or providing any knowledge and wisdom that had connected. But you're still in that container because not only are you signing up to that thing, we call it a container for such because you belong to that group.
Mhm.
And it's quite interesting because I run this program called the Octopus Method. And a lot of the times we talk about, for example, imagine you get 50 joules of energy every morning that you wake up and you only have 50 joules of energy. Where are you spending that energy? Where are you
Mhm.
spending that time? What are you offering to to kind of like look at that? And that's been coming up a lot for me in my life in the sense of where am I spending my energy and what am I wanting to do with those 24 hours in a day, right? Because there's a lot of things that tend to come up that's not even a focus. And you're right, it is an energy leak. And by the end of the day, we're depleted and
Mhm.
we have no energy to do what we really want to do. And then we start to feel the effects of that as well, and it could cause quite a lot of frustration. And then the other thing is where we start looking at those mental leaks is we start bringing in that judgment. Oh, I should have done this, or I should have done that, or the shoulds, the wouldas, the couldas, the judgment aspect starts to come in as well.
Yeah.
Now they're okay in a sense to bring in an awareness to it, but I think we're so used to beating ourselves up for it, and the only way we can actually do anything is to change those behaviors as well. And I think boundaries is a huge way to actually manage that in that sense of saying, okay, what is the one thing I need to do today, and etc. But you're right, absolutely taking in an account and a stock of what it is that what are we wanting, what are we needing, what is a desire, what are we using is important. So for example, the Audible, I buy all the books, I listen to them, but there's just I can't keep up with them,
Yeah.
right? Which is quite important, and it's also been years.
Yeah.
but but there are many books there that have been very, very helpful as well. But it's again, it's do you use it or not is the
Yeah.
big question as well, because I have a lot of emails that come in to subscriptions that I've or newsletters that I've been like, okay, I'll get to it, and I just don't read it. I just don't, and that starts to create it, like fills up your inbox. So it creates that anxiety, that stress of like, look, I've got 150 emails, of which only 20 of them are really ones that you actually need to work through. But that whole perception brings in a lot of overwhelm as well, especially to people that are very, very busy in that sense of that to-do
Yeah.
list. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
yeah, and even looking at the to-do list as well is and having worked in marketing, the to-do list is always like 2 or 3 pages long. And I think sometimes when we get to those tasks, we forget to ask ourselves, are they relevant anymore? Are they
Mhm.
still in alignment? And again, because you're connected, energetically attached to each and every one of them, it's overwhelming and it's tiring and it creates a lot of anxiety, which I think is important
Yeah. Yeah.
to
Yeah,
understand.
I agree. I'd love to talk about business in a moment as well, because those connections you speak of, like these, like an orphaned connection you have, right?
Hmm.
So with I also was what was I part of? Three different membership groups. One for business, one for like my psychic work, and one for uh more like kind of in frankly speaking, it felt more like kind of making friends with other people interested in the spiritual domains. And it's like,
Yeah.
and as I started to um, reflect on them, a bit like looking through your bank statement or your emails or who you follow on social media, and just asking that question, is this what I want in my future? Like,
Hmm.
why am I spending very valuable energy, even just witnessing what this service is showing me? And I quickly left the business and the psychic membership groups. And then the third one, I realized that actually it was friendship that I enjoyed the most from the
Mm,
group. And I was like, actually, I I would prefer to just make friends,
mhm,
including some of the people that are in the group. And so it's just like, I think I'll just leave the group and tell them that's what I want to do. And that's what I've
mhm.
done. And we're doing some music collaborations. And I think that's a really interesting, challenge to yourself. Is like, why do you want that connection there? Because I spend quite a lot of time each day leaving, you could leave voice messages. It was on their membership forum, and you could like chat a lot. And it's really funny how tempting it is as a human to just go, well, I have a connection to this, so I'll just, put some energy into it. And same with all those spam emails, you can unsubscribe everything, or if you're a
Yeah.
bit lazy, block them, or almost every mail client allows you to do it really easily. Um, so talking about business, so if I talk about first on my corporate role, and I'll talk about some examples in my current business. The the thing that we all feared, but also loved doing in my last job was in like we'd have teams of 8 people come together, and every month they present a monthly business review, and it's fantastic because what I loved about it was the fact that to your point, like why are you doing all this? Well, you had to have a vision, and then you'd have some sort of primary metrics, like it might be number of sales, or we did a lot of work with HR, so it was a lot of people orientated, like job applications, and so you'd focus on those things, and you challenge yourself and say why, like why is that metric important? Because no metric is perfect, um, and every metric has its unintended consequences about doing the wrong thing. So you'd have a narrative about that every month on your first page, and then you talk about your highs and your growth areas, and then what you've learned and what you're doing next. And what was really fascinating was for the amount of effort you'd put into it was just phenomenal. If you had a team of 8 people plus a couple of managers, is likely that everyone would work in it for something like a week, probably a quarter of their time every month. And there's this really fascinating reflection, which is if you leave a team alone to just do what they want without them ever really referencing even their own vision, will they succeed in achieving that vision for their customers? Um, and then there's this other, aspect where you think that's a lot of work. Like, are you just slowing down that team by, 25% because they're not doing things to the customer. They're just kind of writing and talking about it. And somewhere in between, there's a balance, right?
Mhm.
But what we'd also see is spinning off of that would be more detailed deep dives into the metrics themselves to watch them on a weekly basis. And
Mm.
it took me several years to realize that the best thing to do when, and it could be a VP or a director would ask me, John, one or all of your teams now need to produce this on a weekly basis. I would very politely and respectfully say, okay, like what's the why we need to do it so that we can make sure
Mhm.
we answer that why, not just a list of random numbers and metrics. Like, what is the real business need for our customers that we're trying to measure through these weekly reviews? And I'd also, just talk about some of the tangible risks. Like some of them would take, you couldn't look at something every week, so you had to have a trailing period, um, and still look at it every week. The trailing period of 3 months. And then I'd also most importantly ask, to your point, Natasha, I would say, what is the exit criteria for this? Like, how do we get out of this kind of jail moment where probably it feels like the wrong investment to be looking at it every single week with such a huge amount of effort? Even if we automate or we would always invest in the automation regardless. And the exit criteria would often be, well, when you're doing a good job against that, the key metrics, or when the customer or customers have decided that they're doing better. More often than not, no one wanted to discuss that exit criteria, and it would go on for months and sometimes years. And often the best thing to do was to not talk about it in the review, would be to go and to approach the senior leader and say, just one to one, and say, tell me how do you feel these are going? Like, how are these reviews? Are they
Hmm.
giving you what you need? And and sometimes you get a really shocking answer like, but I just do them because I thought you wanted me to. It's like, no, 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 you asked like 2 years ago for me to do it. And they're like, oh, did I? I don't remember that.
Oh,
And
wow.
you're like, oh, it's like 2 years. Um, and and then there's these other situations where someone says, John, could you, give me a report on this thing, this special report that you never usually do? And you'd say, yeah, sure, I'm gonna do that. I'm quite busy just now, but we'll try and get it scheduled in. And then I do nothing, and it's on my list. And I
Hmm.
immediately create a connection, like an energetic connection to that
Yeah.
person every time I see them, in the corridor or in a meeting. Hi, about that report. Yeah, it's like on my list. Every time
Hmm.
you see it, you're looking at it going, it's not like I need to do these monthly and weekly reviews and speak to my customers. They're the most important things. So that was also really interesting that actually, for all the things you are doing,
Hmm.
it's so helpful to challenge yourself, like have a clear vision, even if you haven't written a lot about your vision. Tell yourself each morning, and this is like my mantra to myself is like every morning my browser opens up and it says, it just says, John, this is your vision that you wrote for 3 years and ahead,
Hmm.
and take a look. So I just scan through it, and I'm like, and I
Hmm.
go in and make a couple of tweaks, and then I get up, but it's in my consciousness. My conscious mind has absorbed it, and then the next thing I ask for every single thing I do is like, is it aligned with that path?
Yeah.
How does it help? Either the vision's wrong because it's the vision is really like, yeah, you need to have lots of noisy things in your life and all these loose ends that will just distract you, which you would never intentionally write about. And so often it's a case of just feeling into the reality that everything needs to be continually uh, questioned. Is it helpful to do it? And you don't need to spend a lot of time doing it. But just consciously being aware of it is like such a huge step because I feel like often as humans we just very naturally solve things. Like we're really amazing at that. What we're
Hmm.
poor at typically is identifying it and remembering the reason why. And it's much better to just go to the person and say, I'm never going to give you that report, just so we're clear. Like,
Hmm.
I love you, I love working with you, but I'm never going to give you that report. If I ever do, I will let you know. And you've closed that down.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree because not only are you seeing them in the corridor, not only is it on the to-do list, but a lot of the times we tend to bring it home with us and we tend to allow
Mhm.
it to continue. And I don't know if this is just a woman thing, but we tend to reflect on what we haven't done and what still
Yeah.
needs to get done. And I know for me, especially when I was in corporate, it's like sometimes I'd wake up at stupid o'clock in the morning going, oh crap, that report, right, that I
Yeah.
haven't done or whatever it may be. And a lot of the times you're right, it is, how does this support our vision, our mission, and how does it support our clients? Does it actually, really, really bring in those solutions? Is it what they need and what they want, which is the other thing as well. So I've noticed that also very much from a conditioning perspective within my own business in trying to, okay, how do I do things simpler and easier and focused? Because there's so much that we can offer, but what is it that we're really, really good at? Where are
Mhm.
we the experts in? Because there's enough space for so many experts. Like, what do we want to really specialize in? And usually a lot of that is driven by what brings us joy, what excites us. Because a lot of the times I start to see that we tend to, because a lot of people, especially the people that I work with, they're really good at a lot of things. And because of that, they get thrown a lot of things. And at the end of the day, we end up, again, giving our energy to other people's passion and purposes instead of our own. So it's really completely focusing in, okay, like I'm really, really good at this, or this is what I really enjoy, which is an indication of what you're really good at as well. And say, okay, do you know what? This person, is really finding what you really, really enjoy. And it's so funny because I don't know if I've spoken about this, about my experience at the airport of being there, kind of like, so I had a friend of mine that was leaving early in the morning on their flight, and we ended up getting, and I don't want to use the company name, but we ended up getting to the airport at 5 a.m. and the ground staff, because we had to check in. So no more are we talking to actual people,
Yeah.
though we have one person managing all of these weight scales and all of this. It's all automated. I'm all for automation, but sometimes we just need people.
Mhm.
Although, in saying that, the people that were in there at that time of silly o'clock in the morning were super grumpy, super grumpy. And I was just like, and can you imagine how many people that their energy touches? And a lot of us are quite empathic, so we end up picking that up. So from the person that checked the passport to then the machines not working, to then the person managing the machines actually swearing underneath their breath as they needed to help. And I was just like, oh my goodness, this is brutal. I know it's a low cost airline, but if you're going to provide a service, you're going to provide service. Like, and then what happened is you could see it almost kind of like that energy just hitting
Mhm.
every single person that they touched. It just put everybody in a bad mood or in a defensive mood. And it was interesting because, it was like an observation of that, and having working like customer service like has been key, kind of a thing. And then we put in the bags, and then we went upstairs, had a coffee before we left, and the person was grumpy at the coffee shop. And I was like, it's one impacts the other, and we carry on that
Yeah,
energy. It's
that's right.
almost like that thing. And then I started seeing that a lot of the flights were delayed. And I was like, how can that be? It's like it's 5 a.m. Like it's the first ones of the day. But I started to realize that the energy has that effect.
Mhm.
And a lot of people don't realize that that would have cost a lot of the airlines, the companies, a lot of money, in that sense. And it's like, I don't know if there is a metric to looking at that, because usually sometimes when we start our day off wrong or whatever, on the wrong side of the bed, or in this energy frequency, it tends to continue on throughout the day because we're holding that vibrational frequency, so we're attracting that.
Yeah.
And I started thinking about, looking at that energy alignment. What is an alignment? Interviewing people, are you a morning person or are you an evening person? Like putting that energy, the right energy at the right times, like, yes, I'm a 5 a.m. person. I would be like,
Yeah.
probably the annoying person that would be
Me
like,
too.
morning, the sun is shining,
Yeah, but
kind of a
don't
thing.
get me to do it in the evening.
But evening, I'd be kind of like, oh my God, I need to stay awake past like 9:30, 10 o'clock, kind of a thing. The battery would be running a little bit low. And so it's really getting the right people in the right places, not getting people in just for the sake of getting people in. And as the people themselves, really having that kind of like, no, I can't do the 5 a.m. shift, it's just not in alignment. And that way, not only do companies get the best out of people, but people get the best out of companies, and everything's in alignment, and there's that smooth flow. Whereas if there's that energy leak, of whether it be an emotion, whether it be a blockage, whether it be whatever it is, it tends to impact a whole bunch of people.
Mhm.
As simple as the smile of an energy, the energy of somebody smiling at you might change somebody's day, or a compliment, or whatever it may be. And I find that to be very, very interesting, and that is not measured just yet, but I would love to see statistics on the impact of those kind of energy leaks in on everybody,
Yeah.
and how it affects business in itself,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And speaking about meetings, a lot of the times I used to find myself in meetings all the time and not having enough energy or time
Yeah.
to do the actual work as well,
Mhm.
which I find is very, very interesting from that perspective as well.
Yeah. I learned a lot of bad habits, which actually I later found intimidated a lot of people, which was I would just work all the way through meetings and I would type the minutes, like just transcribe, and I'd learned to
Mm.
do it in interviews. I wouldn't work in interviews, but I'd transcribe real time.
Hmm.
And as I was asking questions, and it taught me how to then do it in meetings, and I could
Hmm.
work very freely and be very engaged with a meeting. And or so I thought. And yeah, it sent a lot of bad messages to people, saying, well, here's a senior manager that does this, why can't you? And multitasking is not my strength. Um, but yeah, I think some of the other kind of the fundamentals that we're not yet aligned on in business is that when we talk about our health and our as you were talking about the total energy, is that um, your capacity for productivity in a day is your health. It's
Hmm.
not like you don't get like capacity here and then health here, and that the more you sacrifice one, you get the other. It's not
Yeah.
true. It's just like your health is literally this much at the start of the day. You have this much, energy for the tasks that you've chosen to focus on. And as you work through the day, it just gradually depletes. And there might be a bit of a break and you might get a bit of a win again. Um, and so unless you go into your working day in full health, you're not going to
Hmm.
get full productivity. And also, we tightly couple our productivity. So those things in our to-do list that somehow we had the perfect to-do list, and it was so perfect that it could easily be achieved by, a happy, healthy version of us, and that we could use that full amount of energy to achieve that perfect to-do list. Everything's totally aligned with what we want in our lives and what our customers want. And at the end of the day, we go, yes, I love myself because I've completed my to-do list, or I hate myself because I haven't. And that tight coupling is so disastrous for us, right?
Hmm.
And of course, what's the thing that often people do first thing? It's not to look at their vision, and it's not to look at the top priority for the day, or even to try and find it. It's to focus on all the energy leaks. Oh, I couldn't sleep last night because, I forgot to give Andrew that report from 3 months ago. I'll do that. And then it takes, not 5 minutes, it takes 4 hours. And then the
Yeah.
next thing you find in the evening is all these other things that really you felt more strongly about are preying on your mind, and that you're giving yourself this negative self-talk, which is so destructive. Inside, you're saying to yourself, well, Johnny, you should just be better. You could do it faster. You could work through your energy
Mm.
leaks faster, and you could do like all those meetings. And why don't you work longer as well? And like the self-talk
Mhm.
I lived with for decades, was just so d destructive. And yeah, if you ever want like a grounding point, something to bring you back to center, just ask your body first thing.
Mm.
How are you doing, body? How are we doing together? Because you get a straight answer, right? Like, which is like,
Absolutely.
I think I need a break, or I think I need to focus on the thing that really matters to me. One other really interesting reflection is, imagine the child of you, right? So imagine like you imagine you could on the call right now with like another version of John age 6, right?
Yeah.
Just pretend my plant's on the other side. My plant is John age 6, and say, hey John, I'm 47 now, you're 6. Let me tell you about this exciting stuff I'm doing today. Like, great, what are you doing? Like, you're gonna be a spaceman, fireman, like what are all these things that you wanted to do when I was 6? Like, what do I want to do now? I'm like, I'm gonna sit blank-faced in meetings all day, get really stressed
Mm.
out about the work I should be doing, but haven't quite been brave enough to tell the people that in the meetings that I'm in, I'm not really sure why I'm there or how I'm
Mhm.
helping. I don't really agree with the stuff they're doing anyway. And then in the evenings, we'll probably feel really bad about
Yeah, geez, yeah,
that.
no, absolutely, and yeah, that's such a good reflection into seeing that. Yeah, is it in alignment? Our body keeps the score, for sure, and usually it's the last protocol because it's gone through our mental. It's gone through our thought processes. It's activated those emotions. It activated our actions, and then eventually down the line, the body's like, "No, time out. Enough. Enough is enough." But I did spend a lot of time when I switched careers in trying to change that mindset because I was still very much waking up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and looking at what I hadn't done or what I could have done better or what needs to be done. And it did definitely take a toll on my self-esteem, and my capacity is that I ended up not feeling good enough. I ended up actually making, and because of that, like there's a reaction that happens, and then you're so tired, your brain is so tired, you end up making mistakes. And especially somebody like, well, I'm a little bit I'm dyslexic, so I have to have the extra effort of going in and double checking my work anyway. So you end up
Mhm.
triple checking it, quadruple checking it, because you're in that state of nervousness. And I notice the more nervous and stressed out I am, the harder it is for me to do those things. But I ended up having to do a lot of mind reprogramming, which I ended up doing with a lot of affirmations
Mm.
before going to sleep and when I woke up in the morning. And even throughout those first times of me waking up in the middle of the night, I would automatically just play those affirmations. Um, I recorded my own affirmations so that
Oh,
they're in
fantastic.
my own
Yeah.
voice. I try to raise my frequency, and the affirmations will change over time as your own frequency changes. But I this on this really cool app called Think Up. So you can write down your affirmations and then you can choose, you say them, you voice them, and then they put in background music depending on what it is that you want. And I
Oh, that's
use
cool.
that to fall asleep. So
Yeah.
trying to reprogram my brain constantly to start really loving myself again and start kind of like having a different outlook on life as well.
Mhm.
So that's a tool that I use to reprogram my mind throughout that. Through the
That's
day to
fabulous.
start to reset who I was, and this was who I wanted to be as well. So bringing that into the present as if it's there now, and I started to notice that things started to shift,
Mhm.
and it accelerated my healing. So that's also a very important thing to do. I'm still working on this aspect of boundaries and saying no
Mhm.
sometimes, just because that is that no, we're having there's these options of having to do things, and it's quite interesting because I'm being faced with that at the moment with family in the sense of, no, you have to do this. And yesterday I was like, no, I don't have to do that. I don't have capacity for that. My focus is X, Y, and Z. And that was a big shift for me in that sense because it's
Well
like we
done.
can do it all. I can fit it all. We're
Yeah.
so used to like making it work. We'll make it
Yeah.
work. And then it got to a stage where it's like, you know what? No, I have capacity for that tomorrow. I don't have it for that today. And one almost feels awful in saying no. It feels like you're letting people down. And again, that energy leak of going, I don't have capacity. I don't have the energy for that. Because the other thing is I started to notice if I'm giving to my energy leaks or to things that aren't in alignment, what are the other things that are suffering?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's less time with my children, less time with my health, less time with meditation, less time with quality time, because then there's no quality time left because there's no energy. So
Mhm.
where is it that we're wanting to focus our energy, with our partners and all the rest of that? And the other thing that I started to notice is there's still a lot of people that, for me, it was quite hard to find that work-life balance that are still working 16, 18 hours a day. And that's fine if it's your passion and your purpose, but a lot of people are then waking up and going, oh, I don't have a partner, I don't have a family, I really want one, but they haven't left space for that
Yeah.
in their
Or the
lives
energy. Yeah.
either.
Yeah.
So, or the energy for that, because you're married to your work. And that's the way I see it. You're married to your work. When you go into a partnership with your manager, it's a marriage contract, energetically and in Akashic. It's a contract that is there with not only those managers, but kind of like the business as itself, which is a person. So
Mhm.
there's all these marriages and all these husbands and wives that we need to take care of. So it's where do we place our energy,
Yeah.
which is very, very interesting.
Yeah. I love that you're saying no. Um, and it seems so hard, and yet
Mm.
it is so empowering. I
Mhm.
saw like now the top of my to-do list, and it's short, like, and it's really funny, like I've just started a business. Why is it so short? I've got it. I
Mhm.
could just do infinite work because I know I can do infinite work for the rest of my life, and
Yeah.
it's because I know that shorter is better, and I keep every day I scan through. It's like, really, why is that there? Is it really in
Mhm.
alignment? Have I done something in that space already? And then so the first thing anyway to say at the top of the to-do list is, how can I show myself today that I love myself more and more each day?
Mhm.
And I look at it and kind of shocked. I'm like, oh, maybe I should have made those biscuits yesterday, or like maybe it should be a dog walk today and not, focusing on that new training course material that I'm doing,
Mhm.
which has more of a flexible deadline. And then the next thing it says below it is, it like asks this question, like, is it fabulous? Is it fun? Is it flow? And is it bring me freedom?
Mhm.
And that's That's my all my Fs.
All your F's.
All my Fs. They're the Fs I really care about.
I love
And
this.
I did write a song about I gave away all my Fs. And
Uh,
that those words represent to me that kind of the real-time processing that my mind's going through
mhm.
when I'm consuming something new or I'm about to start a new task or I'm considering whether to say no to something. And I think probably the most powerful, like, is it fun? You know, asking there
Absolutely.
it is, the 6-year-old version of me, my little dragon tree plants, just saying like, but is it really fun? Like, is it really gonna, you know, fuel my passion for this work and
Hmm.
my vision of helping, you know, thousands and millions and billions of people around the planet. And because if it's not, I'm just doing the wrong thing. Like it's
Yeah,
and accepting that not everything is as fun as each other, but even admin can be fun, right? You can
absolutely.
be like maybe for me it's in short periods. Sometimes I absolutely love just 2 days in this, especially when I cleaned my office and got rid of all this the clutter and the energy leaks that were and the blockages because of that. It was like
Hmm.
literally up to here, which is junk. And now only my dog and my plants and my picture are allowed in.
That's
Um,
awesome.
and I just ask myself when something comes in, they're just like, but is it fun, John? Like, you actually enjoy doing that?
Yeah,
And I find that really powerful because your 6-year-old version of you would be pretty blunt, right? And
yeah,
say, you know, that's not fun. Like, hey, do you want to
yeah.
like, you know, like do this at a computer for like hours on end? And you're like, no, do you want to create this thing that will help many people? Yeah, that sounds quite fun. Like, what will it involve?
Mm. Yeah.
And like really sell it to yourself. And if the answer is no, like just yeah, just don't
Mm.
do it. Tell people because you're so much more useful to yourself, to your health, to your loved ones,
Hmm.
and your customers when you say no. I said no recently to a customer who asked me to do, and it was a great idea. And I've done it before as a service, but to do like little mini kind of energy healings for about 10 minutes each. And I was like, oh, I reflected on it. I found what I found hard about that service is it probably cost me about 10 minutes to 15 minutes of energy either side, sometimes more. Sometimes if it was quite intense work, maybe even an hour or two. Um, and if the customer did or didn't really like it, I would find it quite difficult to kind of adjust to their feedback. And I know why they suggest it because I'm doing these in live streams on YouTube now twice a week.
Hmm.
But I don't charge for it, and it's very free flowing, and it's a lot of fun. It's kind of like there's this hype I experience of just like for the hour or two, it's a container which I prepare for, and then I'm in
Hmm.
it for like all the action live and all the pressure being live, and maybe get through somewhere between 13 and 20 people, and then at the end I'm done. And
Hmm.
so it's the thing that my customer really asked for, but people can optionally donate if they want to, and I I find the experience very very rewarding. But equally, I wouldn't do it 7 days a week. I think it would be
Hmm.
too draining. It's quite dominant energetically in my day,
Yeah.
and I think that's also really helpful to look at. When I look at how much I charge for services, how much I plan my day around my work, it'll a lot of it's to do with the energy now. And I never
Hmm.
really used to think about that. I wouldn't think, oh, I've got like, a VP meeting, and so I shouldn't just go literally right up to the wire doing all little, fixing
Yeah.
all my energy leaks right up until the wire. No, I should be taking a break. Go get a coffee, go for a walk, like creating that energetic space. And I've found that so powerful. Now for me, it's like my go-tos are like walks and naps and time with
Hmm.
the family and really feeling, like I have because we really do have true sovereignty and boundaries over ourselves, our health and our
Yeah.
energy levels and the things that we do are they really fun and aligned.
I think it's you just hit something there as well, is we're needing to take responsibility for that as well. Because a lot of the times we go through, it's like, oh, that person, this person, that next. No, we need to take responsibility. And it's quite interesting because then that's one of the things I've been asking, where am I responsible for this energy in right now? And the other thing is, why have I called this energy forward? at this time, what is the lesson that I'm learning? And yeah, learning to say no on a deeper level, or learning to take, sometimes it's about, we try and release control, but sometimes about taking more control out of your time and what you do as well, which is so interesting. But spending that time in observation, and why have I called this to me and how can I change this? Because one of the things that has come up in the Akashic records time and time again, it's when we realize these things that we could be doing better, is not to beat ourselves up about it. It's done. It's really about being grateful for the opportunity of understanding that and realizing that, because there was this
Mm.
unawareness of it. But the not but and the only way to do that is to change it. So it's to change the action so we don't continue to repeat the pattern, because before it was unconscious. Now that it is conscious, if we continue to behave in the same way, it becomes a choice. And we need to take responsibility for those choices that we're making in order to find ourselves back depleted in this area, or burnt out, or whatever is going on. Where are the energy leaks? Where are the energy blocks that, have we created it? Or are we, or is the situation being presented so that we can shift or learn or expand in one way or another? And
Yeah.
and it becomes really quite exciting when we find those things, going, holy crap, like that people pleasing aspect of me still runs deep. And I thought I dealt with it, but it's like, no, like, you know, who are the people that we're pleasing? And and what are we risking in the sense of, within ourselves, and is it an alignment? And yeah, sometimes we need to work a little bit more, or but it's not all the time in that sense. And the other thing is, if we're working our passion and our purpose, it doesn't feel like work,
Yeah.
which is hard for somebody that's a workaholic, that's like, no, I love what I do, I want to
Yeah.
do it all the time. And it's
That's
like, no,
right.
no, 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 even in that is kind of like, and we need to bring a little bit of balance into that. But
Yeah.
I now see it from the eyes of it, curiosity, in the sense of, why is this showing up? What is the lesson? What is this energy that I'm feeling? I'm so not used to feeling this anymore, and why have I called it in? How can I look into deeper into this as well, which is interesting, because people will reflect things to us,
Mm.
whether it's a mirror of what we're doing and what we could be doing is important, right?
Yeah.
Um, so that's very, very interesting from that perspective.
And I do remember, especially when I managed teams in my last software engineering job, that when I managed other managers, they'd find it hard and really quite unsettling when I said to them, please do find your routine, your time of day that this works for you. But every working day, spend a little bit of time, even if it's just 10 minutes, and look at all the things you've got ahead of you in that day and ask yourself, including the goals that you think you and your team are driving towards and your vision, are they the right goals? Is it the right vision? And do the things that I've got in my day, like, are they
Hmm.
supportive of that? And and a lot of people would find it really difficult because uh, the human part of us wants to avoid at all costs uncomfortable confrontations, especially with ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And and actually, for many people, and latterly that became me, was 10 minutes each day, really questioning, should I be in this industry? Should I be working in this job? And it's a tough thing to when when you're the main wage earner, you've got a family to support, and you've got a mortgage and all these things that are going on in your mind,
Mm.
and you don't feel empowered. You feel pretty burnt out and you're pretty tired. And often it's your body's actually trying to get you to this stage. Would you just trying to get your
Slow
conscious
it
mind,
down.
would you just take a moment and
Mm.
really think, if you were to answer that 6-year-old version of you, like, is this really what you want to be doing?
Hmm.
It's okay and it's safe to say no, that it's not what you want to be doing. And yeah, I think some of the biggest moments of relief I felt were when I at least made that conscious decision. I didn't need to know what the answer was. I just
Hmm.
needed to know that it wasn't what I'd be doing forever, and that I would naturally, you know, again, spending at least 10 minutes each day, I'd start to reflect on the sorts of things and explore it what it was that I would do instead. And I must admit, it's so easy for us psychologically to avoid these internal realizations.
Mm.
And it's like we will do everything at all costs to avoid it, including depleting our health and
Mm-hmm.
stressing ourselves out. And the whole time your body sat there quite quietly and lightly, at very least your subconscious mind and your heart saying, just let the brain do the thing until it gets tired. Let it like spin itself out a bit. And then there'll be the right time to say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, it's time to stop. What's the thing we're going to really focus on? What's the thing we really find fun to do with our lives?
Would you be able to take us through that process for our meditation? Not necessarily 10 minutes, but just to help people understand how simple it can be to
Absolutely.
start the day. Okay.
Let's do it.
I'm going to ask you to pause the video for 2 seconds, though.
Of course.
Thank you for giving me grace those few minutes there.
Absolutely. It's fantastic seeing you listening to your body. More of us need to do that, right?
Thank you.
Okay, so yeah,
Okay.
as requested, let's go through a meditation, and I'd like to set the intention for this meditation to help us with our fun and our focus each day to really focus on the things that we find fun and enjoyable and plug those energy leaks and maximize our energy. So if you'd like to join me and begin by taking in 3 deep breaths, nice and deep, in through the nose, and breathe out nice and loud. And again, breathe in through the nose, nice and deep. And breathe out any stress or anxiety, nice and loud. And now breathe in through the nose, nice and deep. And breathe out any low vibration, emotion, or energy at this time, nice and loud. And you can continue to breathe deeply and calmly as it feels right for you. And I'd like you to bring your attention now to your heart. Just allow yourself to come back to your body, back to this moment. Perhaps asking a question of your body, how you're feeling right now. Just feeling yourself where you're sat, standing or walking, wherever you are. Feel how you're held by your chair or your bed or your shoes. How the ground holds you at this time, and bringing your awareness to your whole body. And I'd like you to join me in this story that we will go on together. You're going to bring your body with you as I bring mine. And we're going to start out right to the very first thing we do. We're going to see that this is the first thing we do right in the beginning of the morning of our perfect day. And the good thing about our perfect day is that each of us gets to decide uniquely what is perfect about our day, what's in it, who's in it, what we do, and how we feel, how our body feels. And so as you wake up in the morning, the very first thing you're doing, and this is a working day for you on your perfect day, I'd like you to be aware of how your body's feeling. And perhaps as you get up out of your bed, you'll find the nearest mirror in your home, wherever you are, and just take a moment to look at yourself in the mirror. Perhaps extend yourself some loving kindness. You could place your hand on your heart, look at yourself in the mirror, and say, I love you. I love you, body. And I'm open to today being even more perfect than yesterday. And now, as you prepare yourself for your morning, you get to decide what you do with your time, whether it's drinking a coffee or going for a run, meditation, yoga, perhaps it's sitting, being in nature, or walking your dog, spending time with your partner, your children, or simply just being present with yourself. Just allow those things that you enjoy doing to come into your morning to give you the best possible start to your perfect day. And then when it's time for work, whether you've traveled in to work and you've been listening to your favorite podcast, or you've been ready to work at home and you're going to your home office area, I'd like you to take a moment, and this is the moment before you open any emails, before you're checking your phone, and I'd like this to be your time. I'd like you to know that this is a safe time every day, and you could choose it to be the first thing in the morning, but it could be at any time during the day. And there's a very simple task you're going to give yourself in this moment. You're going to ask yourself, is this fun for me? Does it give me the freedom that I want in my life? Is it fulfilling for me? And then draw your attention to the future vision that you see for your customers, for your business, for your team, and for yourself in that career. And in the chain of that vision, and it might be a very simple one sentence you want to write down, perhaps even in that moment, in your perfect day, in that moment, you write down what that future looks like. Now feel into, is that aligned with what you want to do? Is it fun? Is it fulfilling? Does it bring you freedom that you want? And if it's not, then be brave enough to say that either in this moment or tomorrow, you're going to focus on a new vision. You're going to put time aside to find the vision for your future, for your customers, for your business that feels right for you. And know that it's safe to do this, and it's safe to say in time no to your existing vision and to evolve into a new vision. And as that 10 minutes draws to an end, I'd like you to turn on your computer or look at your phone or tablet and look across the day. It might even be a physical calendar that you have. Look across your day and ask yourself all these things that perhaps other people have put in my calendar, or perhaps I've put them in previously. Do they resonate with the vision I'm trying to achieve? Do they resonate with the feeling of fun and fulfilling? And I encourage you to work through each one and challenge yourself. Perhaps some you'll need to say no to. Perhaps some need to be rescheduled to another day. Every single minute that you're able to free up and to create space for yourself is the most productive time for you. The time in between your important meetings and presentations, your creations of your work. These minutes and the energy in between are some of the most valuable. So cherish these, cherish your energy and respect your own boundaries. And I'd like you also to make sure throughout this day, just as you said to yourself, the first words you spoke at the beginning of the day, when you looked in the mirror, that you said, I love you. An act of self-love is self-care. And self-care can also take many forms throughout the day, throughout your working day, regular breaks, connecting with colleagues, teammates, or perhaps even loved ones in your lunch break. Make sure you have space. Make sure you have non-negotiable boundaries, such as your lunch break. And that this is time that you truly spend off your phone and off your computer and giving your time and energy to your self-care. Perhaps it's a walk in nature. And that when you return at the end of the day, you'll be able to maximize that breathing space that you create yourself. And as you work through the afternoon, You're aware of anything that you're consuming. Perhaps you're monitoring your caffeine intake, or the vending machine is calling you and you're saying it's okay, not just now. I'm really focusing on my health and my self-care first. I'd like you also to reflect on the to-do list that you gave yourself at the start of the day, and know that in the afternoon, you can also start to think about the things that you'll carry over to future days, because there's a future version of you that knows even more about what is fun and fulfilling about your future. And so it's okay for you, it's safe for you. Just let other people know that you're not going to deliver some of that work today. You're focusing on what is the top priority that must be completed today to really support your continued growth and steps towards your vision. And everything that's not can wait. Sometimes it's a no to others, sometimes it's a no for now, sometimes it's a change in schedule. And after you complete your working day, I'd like you to reflect on that feeling that you had right at the beginning of your day of self-love, and challenge yourself and say, was I able to truly hold myself, to hold my heart in that self-love and self-care throughout the day? Was everything that I did, was it for my self-care first? Because it is our self-care that is our total capacity. Our self-care and our health is our total energy allowance for that day to be able to focus on our vision and progress towards it. And catch yourself if you find yourself in those moments of self-doubt, in those moments of, oh, I could have done better, or I should have said this to someone, or maybe I didn't speak up in a meeting, or maybe I should have said no to that meeting. Remember that when you wake up tomorrow morning and you look at yourself in the mirror again in your next perfect day, and you say to yourself, I love you, forgive yourself for all the things that you felt you could have done better, and know that you're always doing the best possible work you can do in any given moment, and that you can never do better than your very best, but that you know that you're continually learning and growing through this process and through this act of self-love each day. And I hope that as you end your perfect day, you're excited for the next perfect day tomorrow, because these days only get more perfect for you as you continually put your self-care and your self-love first. And you take just 10 minutes each morning to focus on the vision for your future, your customers, your business, your teams, and most importantly, yourself. And for whatever's left of today, I invite you, wherever you are listening to this right now, to practice those steps and prepare yourself for your perfect day tomorrow. And when you're ready, come back to this moment, to this day, ready to make it perfect. Just allow yourself to come back to your body. Perhaps take a breath with me, and allow yourself to stretch a little bit and come back to our podcast.
Thank you very much for that beautiful meditation, John. That was brilliant.
My pleasure. I don't want to leave.
No, I know.
It was
I had
going
a
so well.
it was I had quite a few good realizations. I need to go and journal them now.
Oh,
Thank you.
fabulous. No, it's absolute pleasure. Well, I think that's us brought to an end. And thank you so much, Natasha. Thank you for sharing your stories. I always love how much you also make me reflect on. I'm not going straight into my emails after this. I'm going to go and ask my family if they want to spend a couple of hours out in the sunshine. And it's one of the lessons you learn in Scotland, right? Which is, if it's sunny,
Yes.
get your shorts on and run outside.
I really do appreciate the sun when you live in Scotland for sure.
Sadly.
Thank you so
Um,
much. Have a
no, thank
wonderful
you.
day, everybody. Have a wonderful sleep, have a wonderful afternoon, wherever you are in the world.
Thank you,
Say
everyone.
no to the things that aren't in alignment. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Take care. Bye.